How is GigsBoard different from typical freelancing platforms? In this video, we go into some depth into how typical freelancing platforms operate, the significant challenges in their approaches, how GigsBoard addresses these concerns, and finally, how these translate to strong value for both demand and supply sides of the platform. In this section, we will explore the workflow in any typical freelancing or gig work platform. In a nutshell, the activities in a gig work platform include job publishing, job award and contracting, milestone-based execution, milestone-based payments via escrow, performance feedback at the end of the contract, and contract close. We have used the following color schema to clearly identify actions that belong to the different user types in the workflow. The blue-colored actions are performed by the client. The green-colored actions are performed by the supplier, that is, the gig worker. The red-colored actions are executed by the gig work platform, based on specific triggers. The black-colored action indicates a group of actions performed by combination of users. The client kicks off the workflow by publishing a job on the platform. Freelancers would periodically search for jobs in their respective work domain and skill areas. When they encounter a job that they consider pursuing, they would first analyze th job in detail, develop a solution approach, define components that would need to be developed as part of the solution, identify any major questions or concerns with respect to the job, assess the effort required for executing the work involved, and develop a bid for submission to the client. Each freelancer would submit his or her bid to the client, via the platform. During this step, the client compares all of the bids received. At this point, the client may shortlist a few of the bids that are most suitable. At this point, the client may realize that they require additional information from some of the bidders, so that they can perform an apples-to-apples comparison of bids. So the client would request each shortlisted freelancer to supply additional inputs as needed. The bid inputs, plus all of the collected additional information, may get collated into a single document that the client would use to shortlist the winning bid. The client may then enter into a negotiation with the finalized bidder, and update the contract price, schedule, and any other terms. After the negotiations, the job will be awarded to the winning bidder. The client and the freelancer would then work together to develop a milestones-based delivery and payments plan, so that both parties can become more comfortable with the engagement. The milestone plan would cover specifics such as: what would be the milestones for project execution? What part of the work, or what components, would be delivered as part of each milestone? What part of the contract price would be considered as appropriate compensation for each milestone? Etc. At this point, the contract can be initiated, typically by the client, and signed by both parties, via the platform. After the contract has been signed by both parties, work can officially commence. At this point, the client will be requested by the platform to submit advance payment for the first milestone. This money would be held in escrow by the platform. The freelancer would work during the milestone period to deliver the components that are mapped to that milestone. These components would be delivered to the client via the platform. On receipt of components, the client would review the components, and decide whether each component is acceptable or not. Accordingly, the components are accepted or rejected. If any component is rejected, then the freelancer would need to rework on the component, and redeliver it to the client. This would continue until all components mapped to the milestone have been accepted by the client. The next milestone can start only after the previous milestone has been successfully completed. At the same time, the payment for the completed milestone shall be released to the freelancer. If there are more milestones to be executed as part of the contract, then steps I through O shall be repeated until all milestones are completed. The following actions would be cyclically repeated in this step. Milestone invoice raising by the platform. Advance payment of the milestone invoice by the client. Delivery of milestone components by the freelancer. Review and acceptance or rejection of components by the client. Move to the next milestone, and settlement of completed milestone payments. After the entire contract scope has been delivered and all payments have been settled, the contract is ready for closing. The platform will then request the client and the freelancer to submit their feedback and performance rating of each other, on a specified set of factors. These data points shall be visible to future visitors, and the performance rating score shall be used to compute an aggregated performance score for each user. The contract can now be closed on the platform. This section shall address the perceived shortcomings and challenges that may exist in the current freelance platform model. We shall use the same workflow to identify the associated shortcomings and challenges in that workflow step. Jobs definition is performed using a text editor, with no enforcement of structure. This means that unless someone with business analysis skills has defined job requirements, there would likely be high ambiguity in requirements. Further, definition of unambiguous acceptance criteria is not enforced for each requirement. This means that the client and the freelancer may carry different understanding of what done means for each requirement. These concerns may result in conflict and disputes as the contract is being executed. Freelancing platforms do not provide any tools for iterative documentation of impact analysis and corresponding effort and cost estimation. This means that inexperienced freelancers may end up missing out on solution components or other key aspects. It could also lead to inappropriate assessment of efforts, schedule, and costs for the various tasks. The larger implication is, when a contracted freelancer is under pressure due to an incorrect estimate and under threat of losing out on the project's viability, they may abandon the contract and walk away. This could also result in avoidable disputes, if proper planning and structure was applied during the impact analysis and effort estimations. When the initial bid's volume is high, clients will be forced to do shortlisting so that they can then choose the best among the options. The typical basis for shortlisting will be price and ratings. This leads to a price war, where anxious freelancers undercut each other to get into the shortlist. And since ratings are manually submitted, there is a potential for emotional and cultural bias. For each job, competing freelancers will submit their solutions and costs, each with their own highlighted differentiators. So comparing different bids and the submitting freelancers is massively challenging. When the project complexity and size increases, the complexity of bids comparison increases exponentially. The impact is a significant manual effort to be spent on bids comparison. In most large jobs, this complexity drives up the duration needed for RFP to contract to 2 to 3 months or more. In any freelancing platform engagement, detailed project planning will be hampered by factors such as lack of structure in requirements definition and decomposition, leading to mismatch in expectation about requirement delivery priorities, lack of tools to enable effective detailed planning. This means that the detailed planning will be fully manual, and thus impacted by the capabilities and assertiveness of the client and the freelancer, implying that detailed plans developed will not be predictably efficient. Due to the lack of an effective requirements management tool applied on the freelancing engagement, there is no mechanism to ensure clear definition of acceptance criteria corresponding to each job component. This leaves the door open for clients to translate the defined acceptance criteria from their perspective, and decide on an ad hoc basis to accept or reject deliverables submitted. Hence, milestones completion cannot be definitively predicted by the freelancer, impacting both the overall delivery timelines and payments. This may lead to disputes being raised. Even if most of the milestone deliverables are accepted by a client, the milestone may not be tagged as completed by the client, resulting in blocking of the milestone payment settlement to the freelancer. The freelancer may, in good faith, decide to start working on deliverables for the next milestone, wanting to save time. This may end up with overdue invoices and non-payment to the freelancer. Performance ratings are submitted manually by users, in most cases. This makes the ratings subject to emotional and cultural biases. For example, a user in a very happy state of mind may submit a higher rating than deserved, while an emotional disturbance may lead to the rating being submitted lower than deserved. Also, communities that are more stringent may only provide average ratings. Hence, talent discovery solely based on performance ratings may lead to issues later on, and many clients typically test freelancers with small jobs before they award their larger and more complex projects to a freelancer. This ends up affecting the on-demand nature of talent discovery. To summarize the shortcomings of typical freelancing platforms: lack of mechanisms for structured definition of requirements, and their breakdown into functions, components, and acceptance criteria in a traceable manner. Lack of mechanisms to enable structured definition of time and cost estimates for project execution, which can be fully mapped to the overall project and project components, and reflect the likely actuals achieved during project execution, so that the estimates can be depended upon by the client and freelancer to make any necessary supplementary plans. Lack of alternative bid comparison mechanisms forcing price undercutting by freelancers to grab jobs at any cost, leading to price wars. Highly effort-intensive and manual bid data collection and comparison cycle, driving an overlong duration for RFP to contract signing. Dependable detailed project plans that reflect the likely project execution progress. Unpredictable or ad hoc acceptance or rejection of project deliverables. Lack of a financial control system tied to actual deliverables, ensuring timely payments for completed work. Lack of a reliable and unbiased performance management submission system, driving inability of users to depend on performance ratings to execute talent discovery. This section covers how GigsBoard addresses the perceived shortcomings in typical freelancing platforms. GigsBoard has the following built-in functionalities, which may be leveraged to address the perceived shortcomings in the traditional freelancing workflows. 1. A built-in Agile-enabled requirements management and traceability engine, to capture and break down scope and acceptance criteria in a clear and unambiguous manner. 2. A tool for building a team-based time and cost estimate, aligned to the requirements management engine. This estimate can be attached to the proposal to be submitted to the client for a specific job. 3. An automated mechanism for comparison of job proposals, which can eliminate the need for back and forth data collection and analysis, and save months of time on the RFP to contract signing journey. 4. An agile project management engine to plan and deliver jobs broken down into components and delivered in cycles, and thus drive up traceability and control of the projects. 5. An automated agile project planning tool that will take quantified project components and generate a detailed execution plan that ensures that the most relevant and critical components are developed first, and thus improving the likelihood of project success. 6. A built-in Trello-like visual project management tool that is connected to the requirements management and project management engines, so that all users on a project are able to get to the same page of project execution status. 7. The requirements management engine has built-in facility to track and manage acceptance criteria for the project components, so that users can remove ambiguity from the process of accepting or rejecting deliverables. 8. A built-in financial management engine that is also connected to the Agile project management engine, and ensures that invoicing, payments, and settlement are all aligned to actual work completion. 9. An automated performance assessment engine that captures performance ratings at a contract, cycle, component, and component attribute levels, and thus ensures that any biases are fully eliminated during the process. 10. A fully intelligent governance system that compares contract expectations and SLAs to actual performance, and provides instantaneous updates on project progress as well as a forward-looking view of likely completion of the project. With these built-in functionalities, GigsBoard is able to enable 1. Clarity of expectations and scope, end-to-end. No more confusion about completeness of project delivery, or about actual project progress made as compared to plan. 2. Transparency of status across the client and project execution teams. Complete team alignment on work progress achieved, plans for the future, dependencies and blockers, etc. 3. Trust and win-win. Clients get their project deliverables in a timely fashion, or early warning of any delays. Project execution teams get paid for completed work on time. Work status is delivered in multiple formats for easy access and internalization. Thus, despite the distributed team model and on-demand team engagement, projects can be executed in a predictable and transparent manner. This is fully data-driven, with very intuitive mechanisms for easy management. With these built-in functionality and process rigor, GigsBoard estimates that it can drive quantum improvements in projects execution. 1. 100% clarity of scope at all times. 2. Up to a 40% saving of project execution timeline. 3. Up to a 45% savings of effort spent on scope change requests, helping clients to reach their MVP faster, while enabling suppliers to manage their bottom lines. 4. Up to a 60% savings of project budget. GigsBoard has been designed and built to bring clarity, transparency, alignment, and trust to remote teams. The model has been built for a variety of use cases: freelancing, crowdsourcing, and outsourcing, as well as distributed teams from clients' in-house projects. Across all of these business engagement models, GigsBoard applies its data-driven engine to achieve its objectives. We welcome all of you to GigsBoard. Do check us out today.